From Zero?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, your first...
Okay, I've already got what just happened? The intro to the album obviously caught me a little bit off guard. Now, I've since done a bit of digging and I can see that the vocals or the moment that was cut off at the end was, yes, it was like a joking meme style moment. It was very interesting at the start. It sounded a bit off because obviously they jarringly cut the vocals off, but it was supposed to be like whoever, whether it be Mike, like turning off her microphone, because basically whoever the female vocal is in that, I don't think it's supposed to be Emily, but they're like, oh yeah, the first band, which was called Zero. So Linkin Park's original name, I believe, was Zero with an X, so X-E-R-O. And it's basically them saying like, oh yeah, from zero, like from nothing. And then they go like your first band, and then they cut her off. So it's like they're basically kind of ashamed of their first band name is what I'm getting from that and what I can see online. So a little bit of a lore there, which obviously, again, I wanted to preface at the start that I'm not too versed in all of this. I had to Google this to find out what that was all about. So that intro makes a little bit more sense. Personally, I still don't really like the intro because it's a bit jarring as a transition into the Emptiness Machine, and I like albums to flow like very seamlessly, but there's some lore. It's a bit of fun. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of like showing what this album is going to be. It's a lot of fun throughout. It's high energy, and it does, you know, transition into one of the most, if not the most energetic song on the album, which is The Emptiness Machine. So kind of makes sense. Now, if we pull up the album again and you look at the tracks that I have added to my playlist, or tracks that I think I will like to go back to at some point and re-listen to, obviously The Emptiness Machine I think is still my favorite track on the album by a long shot. Cut the Bridge doesn't make it. I didn't really enjoy Cut the Bridge. I don't know what it is. It's the tempo of the song. It's a little bit jarring for me. There's no real like memorable melody moments in it, and also the groove is a little bit like clunky and weird. So maybe I'll go back to that with time, because I've still got a lot more listening with The Emptiness Machine to be done. So obviously that transitions into Cut the Bridge. So a lot of the time I find that some of my favorite songs on albums, the following song sometimes ends up growing on me, because I listen to the song I really like so much, being The Emptiness Machine, and then it transitions into the next song and I don't bother pausing it and I just listen to it again, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to like have that song grow on me. So I'm going to put the Cut the Bridge down to a song that didn't hit with me on first listen. It might grow, but I don't really think so. Heavy is the Crown, we've already discussed it. Over Each Other, we've already discussed it. And then we get into Casualty, which I do have a bit of an issue with the way this song transitions, because it's a very like eerie, I want to say in the same vein as something like Crawling, where it's a very like dark, ominous, kind of like spooky Halloween vibe track, which probably would have been quite suited for a drop around Halloween, to be honest, having heard it. But it just feels like the album doesn't hint at that style coming at all. We just kind of get like dropped into this eerie, spooky vibe, and the album was not in that vein at all. So it was a bit jarring of a transition to just go from like Over Each Other, which I've already talked about at length, you know, being a ballad, Emily Armstrong only, to like this real dark, creepy, like heavy Casualty style song. It was just a bit much. And Overflow, I don't have much to add as well. It was a little bit different. I think the production across this album is really, really fantastic. They're doing some crazy things. Very, very fun moments. It's produced well. It's mixed well. It sounds great. The guitars hit when they need to. The vocals are really well produced. Overflow to me just felt like a bit of an interlude on the album. Nothing to really write home about. I don't know if I would go back to it. Again, it might be one of those that over time, if I listen to the album a few more times, it might grow, but on a first listen, it doesn't really do much to excite me. Two-Faced, again, we touched on it. Now, the ending part of the album, as you can see, starts to pick up again. So it's kind of, in a weird way, a tale of two halves, but at the same time, I love some of the moments in the first part of the album. So it's kind of like the middle part to me is letting it down from clearly being a like massive home run for me. So Two-Faced, we've discussed at length. Go watch that video. Stained, and then the IGYEIH song. I'm not sure what that is standing for, but it does, now that I think of it again, that name gives me mad Deftone vibes, and I know that was the track with the real big like chunky Deftones styles riffs. So the last three tracks on that album, fantastic. I'm not going to go into each one individually. I want to talk about the album as a whole. And I think from what you can see on the screen here, I think this is a very positive first album back in the like new era. It was 32 minutes long, which I always discuss as preferring to have an album that I almost want a little bit more out of, as opposed to wanting the album to just end, because they're just going and going and going and going. So I think this album does a great job of like not overstaying its welcome. It doesn't really feel too cohesive to me. It feels a little bit all over the place, but I kind of don't mind it, because I see myself just checking out a lot of these singles over and over again. Emptiness Machine, like I said, is my standout for me. I'm looking forward to hearing the last three songs in the album again. I think that's like my standout part of the album. Like, you can see clearly just from the 4 tracks in a row that are liked, but I think that's my favorite portion of the album. So I can see myself going back and maybe letting it like roll from Two-Faced all the way through and like hearing that over and over again. But overall, like I mentioned, production's great, mix is great, the guitars really punch when they need to, the vocals are amazing from both Mike and Emily. Obviously Emily is kind of like the star of this album, to be honest. Mike has some big moments in it, but it doesn't feel like he's too prominent in there. Emily's like very commanding on this, which is honestly mental to think that she like was relatively unknown to the world like a couple of months back, and now she's like commanding a Linkin Park album, which is just mental. So yeah, lads, I'd be very interested to know what your thoughts are. So do let me know down in the comments down below. Are you disappointed? Are you satisfied? What were your expectations going in? How do you feel coming out? I'm gonna have to listen to this a few more times. I don't really know how I feel. Again, not like the biggest Linkin Park fan in the world, but part of me kind of wants a little bit more metal in there. Part of me wishes that the pop moments were a little bit more like punchy and a little bit more similar to the Emptiness Machine and like more memorable melodies in there. So I'm kind of torn. So maybe over time I'll come back to this and maybe do a re-review, because it's going to be one that's like such a big album for the next couple of years. So yeah, lads, that's all from me. Leave a like in the video if you did enjoy. If you're supporting on Patreon, thank you so much. If you're not already, links are in the description. Make sure you're subbed on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I'm signing out. Look after yourselves. Cheers.